Welcome back to Lisa's Love and Light. How is everyone doing today? How is everyone feeling? Thank you for being here and thank you for your support. The channel is growing, so that means that everyone is not only subscribing but sharing this video and other videos that I have developed with other people. And that's a good thing because the key factor here is to help other people so that those who are having difficult times with grief and healing and things, the emotions that are affiliated with it, on how to get better. And that's the key factor here. So thank you for doing that and continue to do that, as you listen to these videos. Happy Sunday. Thank you for being here. I decided to do something a little bit different today than normal. I'm going to share with you some in depth things about myself and why I got on the bandwagon to healing because of a lot of trauma and things that took place. Without going into specific details, I can still share things because someone somewhere or a few people who will get this message in a video needs to hear it because they're suffering from depression related to grief. And sometimes not only grief due to the loss of a loved one, but because also they need to heal childhood childhood not wings childhood wounds is what I wanted to say. So that's important because we have to heal in order to grow. So I'm going to start by telling you guys a story. I have a little outline here so I don't forget anything, so just bear with me a moment. So first of all, everyone who's here, thank you again. um, Back in a few videos, I always talk about the loss of my mother. She passed away in 2020, right in the middle of the COVID situation and a shutdown. One of the things that I have a difficult time getting over, and as well as having a difficult time pushing myself, like my therapist wants me to visit her gravesite because we couldn't have a funeral because we were all in a shutdown. So we had a memorial service online, and she was shipped from the nursing home to North Carolina to be buried. And I never got there yet, and I'm working on trying to do that this year because I'm like really struggling with how I'm going to react when I actually get there to pay my respects. And one of the things that I have a difficult time with, that I still struggle with today, is the fact that she died alone in a nursing home with none of us around her. And that I struggle with, but I'm working through it. Like we all have something that we are working through. So I'm going to start off by talking about my relationship with my mother because I want to give people a little bit of information about myself and, you know, how I got from A to B and to the point where I needed to work really hard on myself to heal some childhood wounds as well as the grief related to a lot of losses during the shutdown. So I'm going to start with about my mother. I had a close relationship with my mom growing up, um, and probably a little different from my siblings because for me, it was easier for me to comply to what she wanted to instead of being defiant. I knew that being defiant meant that I would experience dire consequences from my mom that did, that I just didn't want to deal with. So it was easier for me to comply to what she wanted me to do instead of the opposite. So that's number one. Um, this is one of the reasons that why my relationship with my mom was different than the relationships that my siblings had with her. Because I just give in, it's easier than to do this kind of thing, because I'm going to always lose anyway. So that's the kind of relationship I had. Um, Even as a child, you know, um, I was always a different child. I was always the one who marched by the beat of a different drum. I was, even from the time that I can remember, I always embraced diversity, not just one thing, but many things, in the world. And I was really big on diversity, even as a child. And it's always been a primary factor in my life. While my friends and I'm going to give you an example. While my friends and family were clapping to Soul Train, for those who go way back, even though I like Soul Train as well, but I was clapping to American Bandstand because I like that better for some reason. That's just me. I watched both of them, but for the most part, I did watch more of American Bandstand, and my family didn't understand that. But that's just me. I've always been different from everybody. I even had an uncle who used to say all the time, "I think you're adopted because you don't behave like us, you don't act like us." But it's always been me, So I was always the child, like I said, who marched to the beat of a different drum. Um, I grew up in a religious household, with a narrow mindset of the way things should be done, a narrow mindset of the way I should look at the world and other people who were not affiliated with that particular religion. And that was instilled into me from the time I was 5 years old until the time that I actually was excommunicated at the age of 23. And this is something else I had to work hard on, healing, my mindset and thinking one way, instead of there's different ways to do things. I'm going to give you an example about that when we talk about the different way of doing things, like how I try to help other people when we talk about mindset. I talk about algebra. Like, you can there's more than one formula, meaning one way of doing algebra. Like, you can do one formula and I can work on another, but at the end we still end up with the same answer. Let's say the answer is 15, and you can work out a formula one particular way and I may work it out a different way, but we both come up at the end with the same answer, which is 15. It doesn't make your way or my way wrong because at the end we meet and come up with the same answer. And when you have a specific mindset and a way of doing things, you can't say, "Hey, I'm right and you're wrong," because we all work in different ways according to who we are and what works for us. If it's working for us and we're benefiting and growing from it, then it's okay. No one has a right to judge that. And I had to learn this, a lot of healing, a lot of therapy, because like I said, I grew up with that specific mindset. It's this way, and that's how it is. So, that took a lot. It took, years to heal that. And I'm still working through it as well. Um, so because of my close relationship with my mom as a child, my siblings always thought that I was mom's favorite. But little did they know that it was easier. Mom and my relationship with mom was closer because I would just give in, submit to what she wanted me to do, whereas my other siblings would be fighting and clashing with her. It was easier for me to give in, and then I can avoid getting an ass whipping. I'm serious. So it was easier in that event for me to do that. You know, just do what she says. Um, so I remember when I was a teenager. Let's talk. I have notes here so I don't forget things. So bear with me, everyone. Um, Before I get to that part, I want to talk about, like, my mom worked at night. She did the graveyard shift. She was a foreman in a supermarket, foreman in a post office, and she did the 12 to 8 shift. And so was the last one to leave home. So I was the one who had to wake her up at night because she had a hard time for some reason getting up. She slept through everything. and she had two alarm clocks that went off at like 2 or 3 minutes apart, and she still didn't get up. So I had to be there to make sure she get up from work because it was a specific bus she had to catch. It wasn't where she could drive to work. We lived in the city. So she took the bus and then a train to go to work. She did that for 32 years until she retired. So she relied on me to get her up. And at the time when I was a teenager, I had this boyfriend that I was crushing on a lot. And, with our relationship was, it was always me mostly. And so I was so like overjoyed when he asked me to the prom. It wasn't my prom, but it was his prom. So he needed a date. He wanted me to go. And it was on a Friday night. I couldn't because I had to wake her up at 10 o'clock so she could go to work. And if I wasn't there, I knew the next day I was going to be in trouble. And oh my God, it was so hard, everyone, because I wanted to go with him. And it's the first time out of the relationship we had that he wanted me, to go. And it was heartfelt. Please, I want you to go, Lisa, with me. And I was so tempted, man. I was tempted. I wanted to go. But the prom started at 8 o'clock or something at night, and it went on until 1 in the morning or something. If mom didn't have to go to work, I would have went with him. And to this day, I think that's why our relationship ended. He ended it because we were going out 2 years or whatever the case. And because I couldn't go, he felt some kind of way and he went. And after that, our relationship went sour. And I'm like, I always thought about, but I couldn't do it, because I had an obligation and a responsibility to my mother. But anyway, I always thought about that because it kind of ended the relationship, but whatever. Any event, that's how dedicated I was to, what my mom needed me to do. And everyone else didn't have that kind of relationship with her. So I stayed home. I woke her up as planned, and that was it. But to this day, I think about, what could have been done different. But in any event, we probably would have grew apart anyway. But it shows me, the type of relationship I had with mom. And also, I'm straying a little bit because I want to talk about other things here that's important. I also, not only did I spend a lot of time with my mother, but within the organization, the religious organization, there was an older woman there who was like a grandmother to me because even though I had grandparents, they lived in North Carolina and they had a big farm, and I didn't see them as much as I would like to growing up. So I wrote about this in my second year of college in my writing class. About this older woman who was like a grandmother to me because at the age of 14 up until I was 17, I spent a lot of time with her at her home. And she talked about her husband who was deceased. And I learned a lot from her how to be a lady, how to, stay out of trouble. Because at that age, that tender age, a teenager, I spent so much time with her that I learned things early on in life, and she taught me a lot. So in my second year of college, I dedicated a paper to her, and I got a B plus on it, I think. But any event, she helped me so much in so many things of my life, and it helped me in a lot of ways to be who I am today as well. Besides the healing factor, so um, so let's move forward. So okay, talking about my sister. So one of my siblings thought I spent too much time alone and I would read books. I was a bookworm and I would read a lot of books. And my favorite author was Danielle Still. I would buy, most of her books and read them. So my sister and I had this big argument about me not getting out, making friends, etc. Because they were extroverts. They were out all the time. But me, I would prefer reading books. So what I did to end that argument, I gave my sister one of my books to read. and it was Danielle Still book called Kaleidoscope. And she said, I don't want to read this, blah, 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 etc. I said, just start with the first few pages. And if it doesn't interest you, just give me the book back. I couldn't get the book back from her because she was so interested in it that she stayed up at night, reading it until she finished the book. And then we had this huge discussion about it. Now I say, you understand why I love to read. And I got her into those books. And the book that I gave her was Kaleidoscope. It was a storyline about three siblings who were adopted out after their father murdered their mother out of rage from a secret he found out. I don't want to give too many details for people who didn't see that, but who didn't read the book. But Lifetime years later made a movie about it called Kaleidoscope, and starring Jacqueline Smith from Charlie's Angels was the older sister in it, and really good movie to watch. And I also did a paper in school on that book as well. But that's how I ended the argument with my sister. She started to understand why I was into books and read a lot. And years later, I became, in my third year of college, a self-published author, where I am in a process now of publishing my third book. So, and I love writing stories, you know, different kind of stories that keep people on the edge of their seat. So anyway, okay, give me a moment, guys. I did that. My sister was up. So I was inspired by Danielle Still, and that's how I became an author. And I'm talking about all of this because I spent a lot of time in a religious environment where I couldn't have outside friends. And I was bored with what was going on. And my life felt like, if you ever heard of the Stepford Wives, it felt like my life was being controlled by an organization. My life wasn't me. I couldn't be my authentic self. And that went on and on until I was 23 years old. And then I was excommunicated. And for a while, I didn't, my life was hell, people, hell for a long time, because I didn't have the friends I grew up around me, family, etc. And it just felt like hell. But God showed me that He was still with me. He loved me. And, I didn't really start to change my life for the better until I started losing a lot of loved ones during the shutdown. And when I say loved ones, not just my mom, my dog, but people in my life that meant something to me. During the shutdown, I lost 10 people, literally. And it was a domino effect. And I started to look at life in a different way. And I started to work on my mindset to say, hey, there's something wrong with this way of thinking. Life is too short. Life is to be embraced, enjoyed. And, I started doing the therapy. Now, people in my family don't really believe in therapy, etc. But I branched out to do this because I know I had to change my life for the better. And it was difficult, a lot of work, because, the judgment that I had and the mindset and blah, blah, I had to work on that. And the childhood trauma, I had a lot of that, which a lot of things that happened that I'm not even mentioning here. And I had to work through it. And some things I'm still working through because there was a lot of trauma, a lot of things that happened. And I had to heal those things. And, I was estranged from my mom for a little while, and then we were able to reconcile and work out differences. And I'm glad that happened before she passed away, because that would be even much harder for me. Because as I started to have a different mindset and do the work, before she passed away, but I didn't really get serious about it until after the fact. I just started, I knew I had to be my authentic self. It was my purpose in life to be myself. It didn't matter to me who thought what, where in the past it did. I was always subservient to other people because I wanted people to like me. I was this nerd who did things different from everybody else, and people talked about me, said I was weird, etc. And I wanted to change that mindset so I would be subservient. But I was doing it in a wrong way, people, because what God showed me is that I need to be my authentic self, no matter what people thought. I had to be true to myself, and I learned self love. One of the primary factors when healing, to love myself, because when you love yourself, you are not going to be concerned about what people think. In my case, I was only concerned if I did something to hurt someone. I'm concerned about that, and I will address it and resolve it. However, what people thought about how I look or what I had on or the gossip that people do, you know what I'm talking about, people. If a person is gossiping in front of you about a particular person, be sure that when you're not there, they're definitely going to talk about you as well. So I didn't like that. So I tried to be subservient, fit in, which made it even more awkward for me because I wasn't being true to myself. And I had to learn to ignore that and not care about it. And that took a lot because I had a lot of people around me who were fake, pretending. And as I started to realize who these individuals were, I had conversations, and then I implemented boundaries, and then the boundaries were being crossed. It's like they were being dismissed. They were. And then when I would have these conversations about the boundaries, the people in question would be dismissive, and I'm like, oh, then I would get mad and say, listen, I'm not dealing with this. Block, cut off, and delete. That's how they knew I was serious about my transformation and about healing. And a few others even today, oh, this girl is talking a lot of crap, etc. But I'm not. It's real. And they're seeing that because I'm not unblocking them. I am not reconciling. The only way I can reconcile if we recognize that I have implemented boundaries and they respect them and not be dismissive of them, you know. And I had to learn that through self love. And as I start to grow in self love and to be my authentic self, I started to implement these things. And it doesn't matter who they are, where they're coming from. We all make mistakes. We all are imperfect. I get that. I work with people, when that happens. But I'm talking about boundaries so that you can grow and heal, and people need to respect them. And when they're being dismissive and showing up at your house uninvited, unexpected, as they used to do. No, you're not getting in. And, I'll go as far as to call the cops. I don't care at this point because my peace and my growth and my healing means that much to me. So, if I tell you, listen, I'm not available for A, B, C, and D, and you come anyway, then, whatever happens, happens. That's the energy I'm in because I'm not playing about my self growth. It is important to me. It is everything to me. And and it helps me to help other people as well through my experiences. As I always say, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I'm sharing and helping people by the experiences that I've gone through and how I transform. And the therapy that I do is so important every week. At first, it just felt so robotic, but now as I do the work and see the transformation little by little, I continue to do so. And I'm not letting anyone come in and affect my transformation and all the work that I've done so far because they don't like something. We'll have a conversation and talk about it. But when people become dismissive, I just block and cut off and delete. And at first it was hurtful, it was painful. But as I do this, I see it's for my good, my benefit, because I have to continue to grow and to heal, especially when you have a lot of childhood wounds and you have to heal those things. I don't know if we ever completely heal all of them, but we can heal a lot, enough so that we can be our authentic self and help other people. And that's the key factor here. As I learned to heal, I realized communication was the key factor because when I would get mad, whether I was in a relationship in the past or just with family or whatever, we would do the silent treatment. I don't know if anyone ever gone through that, but that's awful. That's worse than someone cursing me out. I'm not talking to you for 4 or 5 months because I don't like what you said. Instead of really having a conversation about it, getting it out in the open, resolving it, and moving on. And that's kind of situation I dealt with growing up. In a house, we living in a house, and nobody's talking to you for 4 or 5 months because of something you did or said. And instead of talking about it and getting it out in the open, they're just going to do the silent treatment until somebody gives in, and that's never okay. But I learned not to do that, and that's why past relationships I had ended because of not communicating. And so through therapy I've learned that communication is the key factor. And it's going to be uncomfortable at times, etc., but it's necessary. It's really necessary so people can learn from one another and grow and come to a compromise and then work things out. So, communication is the key factor, self love, and healing childhood wounds. And that's what I had to learn. And I'm still going through that. Nothing is set in stone, and we always are healing and growing from something. So, I wanted to share a little bit with everybody today about some of the things that I've gone through because none of this is easy. Nobody push a button and program yourself, overnight. Everything takes time. It's like a baby taking their first step. They don't just get up and start walking. They take a step, fall down, get up again. There's a song called I Get Knocked Down, but I Get Up Again. And that's the key factor, is to never give up or to never give in. Take, baby steps. And as you do good and you make little progress, reward yourself. Pat yourself on the back because it's not easy to go through all of this and to heal. And some people don't want to do the work and other people find it difficult. But even though they find it difficult, they're persistent and they're persevering through all of this. Give yourself a pat on the back and continue to reward yourself as you do so. And keep in mind that you are worth it. No matter what you've gone through, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. And the key factor also is turning this pain into power, turning a power into purpose. So that way you can be an example, a testimony to other people to help them. Because there are people out here who are hurting. I mean, not just hurting, they're thinking suicidal thoughts because they're in deep depression because they don't know how to get from A to B. We need to help those people. So once you get the help and you start to slowly heal, you can pay it forward by helping other people through your personal experiences and what helped you so that you can get from A to B and then you can help other people. That's so important in the world today. And it's also important to remove negativity because there are going to be people who are not on this ride here. They don't want to see this. They don't want to see you heal because you're not the same person, etc., and so forth. No, I'm not the same person, but I'm growing and I'm expanding and helping other people, and this channel is growing. And it's so important, people, because if you help other people, they're going to grow, they're going to help others, and we pay it forward and we get better and we do better. When you know better, you do better. That's the key factor here. Loving yourself first, because when you love you, you're not going to put up with just anything and anybody. You're going to set boundaries and you're going to have conversations. And those who don't want to do that, then, for me, I just remove them because I'm not going to sit in negativity. I've done a lot of work on myself and I'm still doing work and I'm not regressing back to negativity. And it doesn't matter what they think. I have to take care of me. And it's not only taking care of you, but it's for your physical and mental health. Because let's face it, everybody, when you go through losing loved ones, and especially in my case, losing 10 during a shutdown in a space of a year, it takes a toll on your mental and physical health. And without taking care of your mental and physical health, then you're no good to yourself or anybody else. But start with baby steps. And what I always encourage others to do is to Google a therapist in your area. Meet with that therapist. Find out if you are in sync with them and find one that you are so that you can do the work, little by little. And then affiliate yourself with a bereavement support group. because people there are going to talk about their experiences, as I do so here on this channel, and what helped them to cope and to get through those hard times. Perseverance is a key factor, and being persistent, never giving up and never giving in. That is the message here today. I wanted to share a little bit about myself so people know how I'm doing the healing work. And then music, I'm into music. Last night I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning just listening to a playlist of old music that I grew up with, and that helps a lot too. Being out in nature, being out by the water, taking a vacation if you can, things that make you feel good about yourself. Do those things because that's all part of the healing process. One day at a time. It's not going to be overnight. So that's the message here today. Thank you for listening. And I'll be back with a new message again in another day or two. Happy Sunday to everyone. Hit that subscribe button. And I'm sorry if this was so long today. And hit the like button and tell others about this channel. And one final thing before I leave today, I want to let everyone know that the July 15th seminar has been canceled because I did not get enough people to RSVP for the event. However, I will reschedule with the new date, and I'll talk about that when I have that information available. But again, the the email address is lisavaughn410@gmail.com. lisavaughn410@gmail.com. Thank you again for being here. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye for now.